Hello, my name is Jeff Gemiello, and today I'm talking about dealing with uncertainty. I guess we have to have a definition for uncertainty, and uncertainty is something unforeseen or unplanned. Let me set the scene. It's dark outside, you're driving down the road, tooling around, having a good old time, not speeding, just maybe coming back home from work. Don't know. All of a sudden, boom! You hear a giant boom. And the first thing that happens is your heart skips a beat. At this point, you feel like you're going to panic, but you don't panic. What happens is all the blood shoots to your head. Your brain starts running through the list. Because the first thing that happens at this point, fight or flight, is figure out what the problem is. And you're running through the checklist. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, you're kind of jarred a little bit, but your brain is starting to fire faster now because now it's an emergency. Now at this point, you're looking around. Okay, I still got my doors, I still got whatever, but the car somehow it's weaving to the left. Oh, I must have blown a tire. You ran down your decision list and said, okay, what do I do now? When you confirm it by moving the wheel. Yeah, you got a problem. Okay, and then you kind of put your directional on and you pull over. Why? It's next on the checklist. You ran through your decision tree, your flow chart, and what you should do. But if you notice, the first thing I said is there's no emotion in that whatsoever. Hopefully, there should be no emotion in that. Because with emotions causes a problem. The natural response is to quickly frame what the issue is and determine what should I do now. And emotions don't play into that at all. Hence the reason why your brain will actually cut off your emotions and say, shut your hole, let's just do this. Let me run through my part. My only part that I'm supposed to be doing is to keep you alive. Let me do this now. And it runs through the checklist. And then at that point, once you're kind of safe, then the emotions kick in. Because then at that point, you are safe where you are. Your vehicle stopped, you close it. Then it's like, oh, how did that happen? And then you start to reflect on things. Not like I quote anything that has never happened to you, hopefully. But the response to that is very simple. Is your emotions really don't kick in until it's safe. I believe everyone is this way. Unless you've been conditioned when you're young to react with emotion, or you have the same predictable response. Oddly enough, being authentic is no different. When you're authentic, you just run quickly through the measures and you already figure out your next plan from where you are with as little emotion as possible at that point. It's like, okay, now I'm stuck here. Do I have a spare tire? Do I have this? Do I have that? You kind of run through the other checklist of, hey, do this. Doesn't mean you're not, for a brief second you were afraid. However, it was repelled by the fact that your brain says, no, we got something to concentrate on right now. Like anything in life, a lot of things are uncertain. You go to work one day and all of a sudden you get handed a pink slip. Like, what? Didn't see this coming. Come home and you find out your house burned down. As much as those are catastrophic things, it's not always peachy things that are uncertain. Yeah, you could also go over and scratch off and win a lottery. But I think that's a little bit different kind of uncertainty. Because you actually had the lottery ticket, so there was kind of a chance that you would have won. You would in your mind. Or one of your friends leaves the lottery ticket in your car, and all of a sudden it's a winner. That's a different story, I guess. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty in this world. From whether what your next meal is going to be to anything else. What I've found very effective is, how do we react to this? I believe a lot of it's a test. A lot of uncertainty is a test from the Lord above. Could call it a faith test, could call it any number of tests. And usually in my case, I don't get hit with uncertainty very often. And usually it's a test to ensure, A, I'm still human. I still have an emotional response somewhere in there. And B, that I'm still going through the programming, so to speak. And the programming is get yourself to safety first. Don't throw yourself into traffic. Don't jump out of a perfectly good airplane, that kind of thing. But from a religious perspective, you can look at it and say, okay, some people would say, well, what would Jesus do in this situation? That's great if you have that luxury, but usually you don't have that luxury because things are immediate. But I understand that. I would actually phrase it, what would God want? Is usually why I phrase that. When left with an indecision, like I don't know if I should take the left path or the right path, I actually look at it and say, okay, some would say, what would Jesus do? I was following his example. Other one would be, what would God want me to do? What is best for the kingdom? Not necessarily best for me, but best for the kingdom. Is it best that I go here, or is it best that I go here? Very weird to frame it that way, but sometimes we're just deposited somewhere you don't know what you're going to do. And at that point, it's to have to sit there and assess what assets do I have? I got 35 cents in my pocket, a pencil, and my wallet. If that's all you got, that's your inventory. Now we can play the adventure game. It's a joke. Well, maybe not. But regardless, what's ironic about most tests is usually get a little bit more constraints added to them. Like a couple months ago, I had some extra constraints added to my test from the Lord. And I'm like, oh, Lord, why did you tell me this a month ago? But we're back to, we're being tested on what we're going to do with that information. How are you going to act? Which direction are you going to go? Because literally, in uncertainty, it's how quickly we can get to normal, or I don't like to call it normal, let's call it baseline. If my baseline is I'm moving forward, I want to do whatever is possible to keep myself going forward. So if I have to take 3 steps back, or my tire blows, I can still get out of the car and I can still walk. Let's go forward, move forward. Forever forward. But a lot of times we get add constraints to spice it up for us a little bit. Don't know if God does it on purpose, but He wants to test us. He wants to see, what are we going to do? Are we going to break down and cry, or are we going to go over and denounce Him? I clearly in past lives I've been a soldier. I've been a warrior. There's no doubt in my mind. I can tell by the way I react. To me, uncertainty. What was my last order that God gave me? Well, that was a number of years ago. Do we still go on that plan? Despite you may have to deviate here, do you still head in that same direction that you're supposed to be on? Or did you deviate worse? Did you and the devil go out and have some coffee somewhere? No? Well, we went this way. And that's what people have a tendency to forget, is how quickly do you get back on mission when left with uncertainty? Trust me, in combat, there's no certainty in it at all. There's no certainty in business. It's constant chaos. Oddly enough, I do actually fairly well in chaos in business. I know no other thing. One day your stuff is working great, the next day it blew up because of something totally not related to you at all. That's all you can do is find out what it was wrong, fix it, and try to harden it so it doesn't happen again. We just keep doing that on repeat. And the good news is, eventually it runs out of things that can break. When I worked at the Westinghouse Group, I was working on with software that was older than I was. It was made back in the 60s, and I was born in 68. So it's nice to see comments about people, oh, I updated this. I'm like, in 1962. I'm like, what the hell? I'm 30 years old. So it's like, wow, that's old. But the good news about the situation is you look at that and you say, well, I'm sorry. The good news about the situation on that is once you determine what the problem is, you could fix it. And when you fix it, you just keep hardening it. Within 5 years of nothing but problems, the system was actually running stable. Stable to the point where other interests wanted a copy of it, other divisions. Because we were not on the mainframe anymore. We were actually running local. And everyone else wanted to save that money. Because that was almost about $125,000 a month just in communication costs that we were saving. And we spent $150, I think, for the entire year to convert it so it runs locally. And there was one person that was actually maintaining it, and that was me. But regardless, uncertainty happens all the time. To the point to where, no matter where I went with my wife at the time, had to go up to a funeral up north, northern Canada, from Buffalo. So it's like 4-day drive with the kids and everything. It was, and my company's like, oh, no, you got to tell us, you need to give us a number. And it's like, no, I'm not doing squat. I just got in the car and left. Came back, and literally the next measure was how to harden the system worse. And within a year, it was so hardened I can actually take a day off. No repercussions. Then it became 2 days off, 3 days off. I can take a week off. I can finally take my vacation off. I had 2 weeks vacation, but I couldn't take any of it off, more than a day at a time. And what would happen is anytime something broke, I'd be called into the office. So I couldn't go anywhere. I'd just be stuck at home, which is fine. But just an example of uncertainty. It happens an awful lot. There's a lot of things we can't predict. But the good news is if you can predict it, we can fix it. The best planners in the world can plan for every contingency on the planet, but the Lord will make sure he finds one that they didn't have a contingency for, and he will burn that plan down. The Lord does that very well. I do strongly encourage everyone, if you've never seen the movie Martian, you may want to see that. I think it's with Matt Damon, is in it? I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but the guy's trapped on Mars. You can't get any more uncertain than that movie. Imagine yourself in that person's spot. Watch the movie. It's a good movie. Would you react differently? Think about it. But I said I strongly recommend that you watch the movie. I said it's a really good movie. But put yourself in the mindset of the guy. It's like, what options do you got? Fight, or roll over and die. I don't know. I'm not a dyer, so I am definitely a fighter. As I said before, in other lives, I must have been a warrior. I know I've been a peasant, and I know I've been through a famine a couple times. I can tell. So I just have such a love for food. Rather unhealthy, I should say. But regardless, I do believe you should watch that movie if you have never watched it. It's other than the first couple scenes, I don't think there's any actual violence in the actual movie. I can't say if there's any F-bombs dropped in it. There probably is. But largely, it's actually a good movie. I'd almost consider it actually a family movie because it actually inspires. Because you try to put yourself in that position. What would you do? What would Jesus do? What would God want you to do? Do it. So, that's all I have for you. As I said, uncertainty, it happens all the time. It's how you deal with it. I generally have a very delayed reaction to uncertainty. I assess very quickly and then let it drift off, let their emotions catch up later. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. It depends on how uncertain it was. But sometimes you have to pay the price for uncertainty. Something we don't know, we don't know. The good news is always ask yourself, what would Jesus do, or what would God want me to do? Because eventually you won't have to ask yourself that question, what would God want you to do, or what would Jesus do? You just do it. You can also, you may want to ask, signs from your spirit team, because they usually do give you signs of what they want you to do. Spirit team as in spirit team as in spirit guides. Usually spirit guides will walk you through the process. It's not to say your ancestors won't either, but they're the ones that normally have the bigger plan. So your spirit guides will go over and say, psst, make it right. So you may want to listen to them. Again, thank you for listening. Have a great day.